Welcome to Drinking Bros, presented by GhostBed.com.
Welcome to Drinkin' Bros podcast. Kids, got a big show today. Eric Trump is on the show. Eric, how are you?
What's up, guys? Good to be on.
Man, good to have you on. First of all, I miss your dad. I know you hear that probably 80 times a day, but I'll tell it to you. I miss your dad in office as president.
I'm telling you, I think the whole country does. I was on a plane the other day going from Vegas to Arizona, and literally I came on the plane. A woman in the back literally shouts, "Let's go, Brandon!" The entire plane starts chanting USA. It was a pretty awesome moment. But it's crazy to see how fast the place can just deteriorate under kind of bullshit leadership. And it's what we're seeing right now. It seems like the whole world's falling apart. It's just sad. Sad. We're in a good spot. It feels like
that's the issue with weak leadership, is it doesn't just rot. So you can see the effects of weak leadership with Putin trying to pull bullshit, right? Mm-hmm. And with other aggressive moves made by people that we're antagonistic with at the foreign policy level, but also bad actors within our own government becoming more emboldened to do the typical shit that they do. So it's no surprise to see that we're here, right?
It's a test. Like, they're watching what this guy will do. You don't think China is watching what's going to happen in Russia? But believe me, the one thing I'm certain of is, if this whole thing goes down with the Ukraine, you better believe that China's going to follow with Taiwan, and every other leader in the world is going to follow, and they're going to realize that this guy's weak and feckless and allows it to happen, and there goes world order. And it's awfully scary to watch, especially because we're in a really good spot a year ago. I mean,
yeah, we were in a great spot, and everything seemed to be going okay until it wasn't anymore. Speaking of which, this John Durham thing that popped up on Friday night, I saw you on Hannity talking about it. Why isn't the media covering this?
Yeah, because they've weaponized the system. Let me give you kind of the thing that, if there's one thing I figured out over the last 5 years, and guys, I'm not a politician. I knew nothing about politics. I built hotels. I'm a real estate guy. But the one thing I figured out of, kind of during this little crusade of ours was the weaponization of the system. And it's the one thing that the left is really kind of good at. And, every institution in this country, every institution that shouldn't be political has been turned political by one side. And that's like a deeply dangerous thing for this country. And you see that with media, you see it with social media, you see it with technology, you see it with the DOJ and the FBI, you see it in the military. I mean, Dan, you're a military guy. Are you thrilled that Milley's going up there saying, "I'd like to learn about white rage," while, China's launching hypersonic missiles and we don't even know about it? Guys, they've weaponized every single institution in this country, but they've weaponized the media. And guys, I was the guy that got the suspend call, right? I mean, my team literally called me that day when, New York Times sends an email. We hear that you have secret servers, literally in the building that I'm in right now. We hear that you have secret servers with Russia. I go, guys, we don't have secret servers. Like, we're a real estate company. We build hotels and golf courses and, run other properties. Well, we hear they're linked directly with the Kremlin, with Alpha Bank in the Kremlin, which is a Putin sympathetic bank. I go, guys, we don't have any servers with, So this guy, this fraudster, being paid by Hillary Clinton, walks out of the FBI building, literally calls up the New York Times, the Washington Post, the two, biggest anti-Trump papers. Yes, we hear that the FBI is investigating the Trump organization. That obviously, sets into motion this whole kind of Russia collusion thing. But you want to talk about dirty, nasty people? It's horrible. So, guys, I'm pissed off, and the media is not talking about it because they were wrong. And half of those media outlets, their journalists won Pulitzer Prizes reporting on a story that was bullshit.
Yeah.
And guys, it shouldn't have happened. It's disgusting. And the thing that pisses me off most about it, aside from the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hours that were wasted, the tens of millions of dollars, the destroying of young people's lives within the administration, this crazy woman, this crooked woman, literally pitted the two largest nuclear superpowers against each other, almost creating a Cold War of sorts because she wanted to get an extra 3 votes. Like, why does no one talk about that?
I don't know. Look, besides podcasts and things like that, the traditional media isn't covering any of this. Dan, you were on the Steele Dossier long before a lot of people were, and that was bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Dan was actually one of the few guys that got it right. I remember this.
Yeah. It's so stupid. I mean...
Like a long time ago.
Like, since November of 2020, the biggest threat to democracy, according to the legacy media, hacks out there has been questioning the integrity of federal elections, which is really interesting because in November of 2016, this whole collusion thing, the greatest threat to democracy was an illegitimate election that got Trump in office, right? That was the greatest threat to democracy, which is super interesting because earlier in 2016, Hillary Clinton used DNC money to pay a foreign agent to fabricate evidence, right? Which is an actual threat to democracy.
Yeah.
It is unfucking believable that you could trace these steps backwards and see each point where weak men and women, right, capitulated to money and power, whether it's a part of their own ego or fear from reprisal. And that is, it's Edmund Burke. All that fucking evil needs to succeed is for good men to do nothing. And we have a very complicated history in this country, but the framers of this country, as flawed as they were smart enough to design a system of government where, and we're seeing it in Canada right now too, where all of this stupid bullshit can be shut down just by people collectively saying, you know what, no.
Yeah.
We're not doing this anymore. And that's what's happening in Canada. And I'm really proud of those guys up there. We had a Canadian trucker on American Party earlier today. It was a really good show.
Yeah, and Eric, you know, with you, I feel like you're just screaming into the abyss about the stories like John Durham and everything else, because, again, traditional media won't cover it. I saw you on Hannity on Monday nights talking about it. Fox News seems to be the only one. With a story this big, eventually later on down the road, somebody's going to have to talk about this, right? The New York Times or the Washington Post.
Maybe Adam McKay will make
a
movie about it.
Yeah, we're going to make them talk about it. Trust me, we're going to end up making them talk about it and more to come. But guys, it's insane. I mean, I lived the hell that was politics. I remember that night when we won and we put everything on the field. Guys, we knew nothing about politics. I always joke about this. I mean, we didn't know what a caucus was. We didn't know what state came first. I mean, we didn't know what a delegate was. This isn't our world. We're not politicians, right? And we went out there and we spoke from the heart, and we did so as a family. We raised literally 1/5 the amount that Hillary Clinton did. So somebody was obviously looking down at us as we went through this little voyage. And I'll never forget, Hillary won. I mean, when Hillary called my father after my father won to concede, 12 minutes after that, the Washington Post comes out with a story. This is when impeachment begins. They were talking about this 12 minutes after Hillary conceded the election. We went in and, it's, this guy Sussman going into the FBI to lie that we had secret servers with Russia. Then he calls up the New York Times. The New York Times writes these stories that there's collusion. Then they take out, the Attorney General, Sessions, and they put in a special, counsel, and they go through every piece of paperwork, and they drag these young kids in the White House through the absolute mud. They bankrupt these kids because they don't have the ability to pay for legal fees. They put people under thousands of hours of congressional testimony. They waste millions of hours of time. It's the only story that the country is talking about for a 3-year period of time while my father's trying to run the country. Literally, it's, how hard that is to have a conversation with Russia when the entire U.S. media is talking about how somebody falsely colluded with Russia. Like, what do you think Putin's thinking on the opposite side of the ocean? So you're trying to do diplomacy, and all because of this power-hungry woman trying to get a couple extra votes and take somebody out of power, and the crookedness. This whole country has to deal with this crap for years and years and years. And guys, it's wrong. And that's the problem with this country. I mean, the weaponization of politics, and it pisses me off as a non-politician, but the weaponization of politics in this country is insane. Every day we get subpoenaed. We have prosecutors. They're only on one side of the aisle. We have never gotten a subpoena before my father won, before that, concession call that I just mentioned before. And every single day we get subpoenaed. People try and find one comma that's out of place. They want to take my father down. They tried to do it to him with the first impeachment. They did it to him. They tried to do it with him with the second impeachment. They tried to do it with Kavanaugh. I mean, how many people's lives do these power-hungry people need to destroy? And it makes you feel like you live in a banana republic. Like, we're better than this as a country.
Yeah, it's like
clearly sit on one side of the political aisle, but I'm not into these games. And frankly, if Republicans were doing this to Democrats, I would be wholly damn against it. Guys, it can't happen in a true democracy. Otherwise, we're no better than Venezuela. We're no better than these, third world countries all over the place that, we try and save every day. And it's got to stop. It's got to stop in this country.
Yeah, I've actually got I'll summarize it a bit. I've got an article coming out in Newsweek this week about impeachment. Impeachment's never been used correctly, not once in the history of this country. So the first guy was Andrew Johnson. He wanted to fire his Secretary of War because he disagreed about how he was going to go about some things. And as you know, members of the cabinet serve at the pleasure of the president. He or she can ask for their resignation or fire them whenever they want. The Congress passed a law making it illegal for the president to dismiss a member of his own cabinet without their approval, and then they impeached him for it when he did it, right? And then obviously Bill Clinton got impeached because I don't know why exactly. I guess lying on the stand about getting his dick sucked. I mean, he had a shitty presidency, and the nation-building stuff he tried to do was a horrible mistake. And then you have Trump, the first one was over the Ukrainian phone call, which was nothing. Right? Now, we've never used it correctly once. And now people are talking about impeaching Biden. And I heard Ted Cruz on his podcast about a month ago say that he'll probably get impeached whether he deserves it or not. Right? That's fucked up. Right? Yeah. That's not, if you want to continue hammering away at this shit and completely fracture the entire country, that's the path you want to be on. But that's not exactly what most people want, I don't think.
I don't either.
By the way, Dan, they tried to do it more than just twice. It wasn't just Russia. Remember, they first tried to do it on Russia, but then when the whole narrative fell apart, you had Mueller come out and they said, you know what? Nothing happened. There was no collusion between. Then all of a sudden the Democrats went crazy and said, you know what? We're not going to do it on Russia. We're going to do it on obstruction. So apparently there was obstruction of something that never happened before because my father said it wasn't true. So they tried to get him on obstruction. Then they tried to get him on a phone call. Yeah. And it wasn't until my father had enough balls to put out the actual transcript of the telephone because people were lying about what was said on that phone call. Thank God it was actually recorded, right? You had people from the White House that were, kind of transcribing the call. They tried to impeach him on that. But then remember the whole cognitive thing? It's really interesting now that we're watching Biden. He can't get through a sentence without, stuttering. He literally can't say a number. He can't get through a number.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yet with my father, it's Article 25 of the Constitution. He's mentally unfit and all this crap. You don't hear that anymore. I mean, the weaponization of the system has to stop because the amount of, you talk about China, and China's like something that's really, really just, we've got to start focusing on China because they want to eat our lunch, and they are every single day. They're launching hypersonic missiles, and we are trying to impeach people who are trying to run, a country. We're talking about transgender bathrooms, and these guys are building the greatest military the world has ever seen, stealing our jobs, stealing our manufacturing, stealing everything that we have, breaking into our, into the Pentagon, stealing plans for our fighter planes and everything else. I mean, manipulating world currencies, taking and buying the biggest seaports in the world, doing 5G to otherwise control all communication in the world. And we're sitting there screwing around with people who are trying to fight all of that using impeachment and politically motivated prosecutors and, all sorts of other games. It's got to stop in this country. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country. I mean,
yeah. Do you think it's a sign of like the septuagenarian and octogenarian leadership, if you want to call it, I'll put leadership in quotations, if you want to call it that in this country, that all these people are still fixated heavily on Russia? I mean, yeah, Russia can be a threat to us, China is, right? So it's much more important to focus on reality than something that may occur later. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like this whole Russia-Ukraine shit, frankly, having served in wars, I don't give a fuck about Ukraine. Right. Like, I couldn't care less about that place. It seems like it's one of the most corrupt governments on earth, which we know because they've been doing shady dealings with the Biden crime family for years now, which I've elucidated on a number of shows now. But that whole, remember when, and it's weird the left took this turn. I don't know if it's a warmongering thing or if they just have to be against whatever the right says. But remember when Mitt Romney said that Russia is our greatest existential geopolitical threat, and the left laughed him off the fuck. You're fucking stupid. And now they're like, we've got to do something about Russia.
Yeah.
While China, like you said, is eating our lunch every day. And they're not doing it by fucking going in the old Cold War anti-containment stuff. They're not going to setting up military bases in Venezuela and everywhere else. They're controlling production and currency and technology. And those are the three things that matter now. It's not fucking taking soil on South American land or Central American land or the Caribbean. That shit doesn't matter anymore.
No.
We're in a global economy, goddammit.
Yeah.
Yep. Guys, when you look at Russia, if you actually break Russia, meaning their GDP, I think they're the 13th largest or 14th largest economy in the world, right?
Yeah, California is a bigger economy than Russia.
Yeah, if you take California, you break it off this country right now, it's the 8th largest economy in the world. That gives you a great kind of sense of where Russia is. And I hear about all these guys, let's go fight wars in Russia in the middle of the winter. It's like, okay, so you're going to send the 82nd Airborne to go fight a war in the winter? I mean, what are we doing? Do we really want to be fighting wars in Russia in the, in a Russian winter? Like that just, why does that sound like a bad idea? But the infuriating part of this to me is we've allowed this to happen through just weakness, right? Mm-hmm. Look at when my father was in office, we had the lowest oil prices in the history of the country. You know when Russia makes all of its money? When oil is at $100, when oil is at $110, because Russian oil is really expensive to extract out of the ground. They are making a boatload of money right now because oil prices have gone up. And because, frankly, we're no longer energy independent. We were under my father, but we shut down all, drilling on public lands and a lot of other things. We're no longer energy independent in this country. So when we used to be shipping oil and gas out of our ports to Europe to support our allies, guess what we're not doing anymore? We're not doing that, which has driven energy prices up, which means that Russia is making an absolute fortune. And guess what? That makes them a stronger country militarily. That means that they can park more ammo on, the border of Ukraine. That causes all sorts of problems. It makes America weaker. It makes them stronger. It should have never happened. And so the point is, my father was a guy who never wanted to fight wars. He always said, I want to have the greatest military in the world, but not have to ever use it if we can avoid it. But no one messed around with him because you know what? ISIS would put up a camp on, some hill. And guess what? He would drop a Moab on their head and 2,000 ISIS fighters would be dead. And it sent a pretty good message to Kim Jong-un and all these people. Like when Soleimani was, droned, it sent a pretty good message to, these people. Hey, guess what? Don't mess with the United States because this guy, he will do what it takes. At the same time, he wanted to get out of these wars, these endless wars, and the ones that we did have to fight, he actually wanted to get paid back for. And now you look at this guy, he doesn't even know where he stands. He's going out one day and telling people, well, we're not going to use troops. And the next day he's sending people, troops. So, I mean, he's just confusing the entire world. People realize he's ineffective. And then you have the Afghanistan disaster where, believe me, if we get, beaten, and the soldiers didn't get beaten. You know who got beaten? The politicians got beaten in that war because we had that war won. But then this guy comes in and you think China's petrified of the United States anymore after seeing what happened with the Afghanistan withdrawal? Of course not.
Yeah, and I think that's what happened with, and this is the same with Ukraine too, where you can go, Russia can press the Ukraine thing all they want because you just got out of a shitty war and in a horrible fashion.
Well, yeah, and the last time Russia bowed up like this was, 2014 in Georgia, right? And it was the same situation. Obama was being a feckless little cunt that he is. And doing nothing to help this country. Now you're talking about Russian oil, and now that's a big deal for a lot of reasons people don't understand. Germany, behind the scenes, according to people I know at state, are already capitulating, already telling NATO we're not going to support any action there because they have to have Russian oil. They have to have it, otherwise their economy shuts down. Right? They're already fucked. So their level of inflation is way higher than ours right now because they can't get oil.
Then let's not pay 4.1% of our GDP, which is the largest GDP in the world, into NATO. Guess what? Germany, you're a lot closer to Russia than we are. They don't even pay their Russia. Half the time they don't pay their NATO fees, right? It's something that my father went after them all the time for. But they're literally on Russia's doorstep. And so you mean to tell me we're paying 4.1% of our GDP when a country that's much closer, who would actually need the protection from Russia, which we don't, isn't paying crap, and then will continue to buy all their oil, which only makes them stronger, which only makes NATO weaker. What the hell is wrong with us? What are we doing? At this point, you may as well. I mean, guys, it's infuriating. It's infuriating to see.
And you're asking what we can do. The only thing we can do is go out and vote, right? So we've got the midterms coming up here in November. I'm expecting a landslide by Republicans. Do you see the same way? And what are you hearing internally?
I see a landslide. I do. I think universally. I mean, how many people do you see jumping around saying, I voted for Biden? Do you see any Biden stickers on the back of cars?
None.
Name one accomplishment. I mean, honestly, I mean it. Name one accomplishment of the Biden administration and name one thing that Kamala Harris has done. Just anything. And I bet you couldn't do it.
No, she still hasn't gone down to that border.
She did go to Taco Bell one time, which is...
That's close. Yeah.
But I don't think she's sponsored though, so I don't want to.
No, obviously not.
You know what the problem with these guys are? Every single time you have a major crisis, they disappear. It's like, leaders don't disappear when you have a crisis. They run into the fire. They don't run. They don't run away from it, right? So he makes her border czar, and where does she go? She goes over to Vietnam. I mean, when you were just, named border czar, why wouldn't you fly over to Southeast Asia? Like, why wouldn't that be your priority? Right? It's the same thing. I mean, Pete Buttigieg, you have ships that are lined up for miles outside of Port of LA. And they're not unloading containers fast enough, right? It takes them 6 months to figure out that you may as well open those ports 24 hours. It literally took them like 6 months to figure out that solution. We're going to open up the ports 24 hours a day. It's like, no shit, Sherlock. I mean, it took you 6 months to figure that out.
Yeah,
that would have been like the first move on day one.
And you know who doesn't care about working overtime? You know who loves working overtime? Fucking longshoremen.
Yeah,
because they get paid a fuckload of money. When
double time,
But where
brother.
did Buttigieg go? He goes on paternity leave. And why wouldn't you go on paternity leave when literally, and by the way, God bless it, I don't care, but if you're in charge of transportation for our nation, and you literally have the supply chain problems that we had where a 2x4 costs $14 at Home Depot, guess what? No paternity leave. You don't get to go on paternity leave, right? And, Biden, Afghanistan's going to hell after, thousands of incredible soldiers' lives, literally hundreds of billions of dollars. Where is he? I mean, why wouldn't he be in vacation in Delaware? I mean, the problem, guys, these guys run away from the problem. You look at the White House right now, and we know plenty of people that are in there, but half the offices are empty. Half the people are still working from home. I mean, guys, this is running the United States freaking government. Like, my father was in there until 11 o'clock at night. He worked 24 hours a day. He was taking those calls at 2 o'clock in the morning from every world. Like, just at least put some damn effort into your job. Like,
for sure.
If these guys worked in corporate America, they'd be fired in about 4 minutes because they're incompetent and lazy.
Yeah, I mean, even for all of his faults, Obama wasn't lazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you didn't. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Biden stays in Delaware. They built a fake set that looks like a section of the White House. Dude, you could just go there. You live there. That's your house right now. You can fucking go to the actual White House and do your stuff there. And we saw it with Trudeau too, right?
It's pretty nice. Marine One. Let me just fill everybody in. Beautiful helicopter. Delaware is not all that far away. Guess what?
No, it's really not.
Beautiful helicopter that money can buy to Andrews Air Force Base. They hop on the most beautiful plane, money can buy, which has another, Marine One picking you up on the other side and dropping you off in your location. You're talking about, 150 miles, 100 miles?
Yeah.
Probably less, right? This takes them 30 minutes to do. Like, it's not hard to get back to the White House in Wilmington, Delaware. It's
not about time or convenience, though. It's about being it's about being a coward. That's what these people are. Like when the trucker convoy was on the way, I think it was the Thursday before they got there in Canada, Trudeau's like, he's making all these statements about them having unacceptable views, first of all, but then he says, his team releases that he's been exposed to COVID, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so he's going to go into quarantine. And then, oh, no, he's got COVID now. Shit, he's going to have to be in there for a while. But then the next day after that, CBC, their government state-run fucking media now up there, said, the first family's being protected, held at a secret location for their safety, trying to make the truckers look dangerous. Yeah, bouncy castles, dangerous as fuck, dude. You know how many people die a year on bouncy castles? At least 3 or 4, probably. Shit.
Probably.
They do that to the SHOT Show and everything else as well. Very dangerous people. That's the safest crowd in the world, meaning you have exactly zero problems.
Yeah, no kidding. Wait, so was it
right.
Business Insider that ran that story about your nephew building a gun over at F1 Firearms? Like,
Yeah.
His 12-year-old son is building guns. Like, dude, it's not fucking. What do you think is happening here exactly? He went into a Santa's Workshop style gun manufacturing company and learned about the assembly of weapons that he can legally own, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck are we talking about? It's all part of this giant, consistent smear campaign, and that's ad hominem has been a logical fallacy since ancient Greece. We've always known that. If somebody's attacking a person and not the idea, they know that their idea can't win.
Yeah.
Because it's not as good.
And Eric, with you and your family in particular, you guys have been under attack for years now at this point. It's amazing you're able to get anything done in real life because there's so many lawsuits, subpoenas, and everything else, like you were saying at the top of this episode. What is your day-to-day really like now that you're outside of the White House? Because I feel like there's a new lawsuit every day. There's a new investigation every day still. And I can't figure out whether it's for clicks or for fame with like Letitia James and them. Like, because she's not looking into the Durham thing at all. She's still looking into your family about other shit.
Well, let me give you a little thing. So, we go to court with Letitia James. We sued her and all this, but we go to court with Letitia James on Thursday. So this is a woman that literally ran on the premise of taking down Donald Trump. She's on video saying, I'm going to sue the shit out of him. I'm going to get him. I'm going to go out.
Yeah, your brother posted that today. I think,
Yeah, I saw
Twitter.
it. Yeah, we saw it today.
You want to talk about insanity. And by the way, this is when she was a candidate. He colluded with Russia. He colluded. He's an illegitimate president. You watch. I'm going to take him down. I'm going to get him, right? Then she sent subpoena after subpoena after subpoena, right? And she's just trying to find a comma that's out of place. 4 years later, here we are, right? She comes up with nonsense. Guys, this is our life. Like, they are so petrified of my father running again in 24. They are so petrified of him running again in 22. And by the way, the problem is all of these prosecutors, Letitia James 2 weeks ago, as part of the lawsuit, she's sending out fundraising emails, fundraising off of the fact that she's going after Donald Trump. It's like when you sit on a jury, the first thing a judge says to you is, you can't go into this case with any preconceived notions, right? You have to go in with an open mind, no preconceived notions, innocent until proven guilty. She literally ran on the platform. This is the highest law enforcement official in the state. She ran on the platform of taking out a guy, taking out his family. She was the head of the Democratic Attorney General's Association. You have the district attorney who, sued my father over 100 times when he was in Washington, D.C. Guys, this is what I'm talking about. And all the while, last week, you had an 11-month-old girl get shot in the face in New York streets. Yep. You had 2 cops that were executed. And half of their offices are spent what? Trying to look for a comma that's out of place somewhere in 20 years of Donald J. Trump's life?
Yeah,
it's insanity, guys. I mean,
it is.
New York has I'm embarrassed because I live here, but New York has gone to absolute crap under this kind of leadership because they're not actually concerned about following the law. They just want to get a guy that they don't like, that they think poses a threat to their party. They're politicians. They're not, they're not real prosecutors. They're politicians.
Yeah, and it's all time consuming. Like, people don't understand. If you haven't been in a lawsuit before, it is time consuming. They want emails, text messages, everything else for years and years and years. Then you have to deal with that. You guys are under hundreds of these at all time. Since you brought it up a second ago about him potentially running in 2024, is he? Because that seems to be the general consensus. And right now, I don't know that there's a better candidate out there.
Guys, what I'll tell you is, this whole thing has taken a great toll. Certainly don't cry for us, but our lives are substantially better outside of politics, right? I've always said that politics is a nasty world. You mentioned it with lawsuits and this and that. Everyone is gunning for you. You can't. There are no mistakes. There are no anything, right? If you're in that game, when you see we fought our asses off for that thing behind you, which is called the American flag, red, white, and blue. We love this country. We love this nation. We love the military. We love our cops. We love what was at least the strongest country in the world. And I hope we return it to that. Otherwise, guess what? My kids and your kids and everybody else doesn't have a future. But I don't think anybody else can win. I've got to be completely honest. I don't think anybody else has the kind of gravitas to win. I don't think they have the actual backbone to fight the fights that you need to win. And by the way, even if somebody got in there, I've had kind of I've had a look into kind of Washington, D.C. politics where it takes people and it changes them instantly. People run on this notion of going in and making real difference and everything else, and then they get into the system and the system poisons them almost immediately. And, I kind of hate to say it, once in a while you actually might need that brash, very un-PC, real estate guy from New York to go in there who just does not give a damn, who cannot be bought and sold. Because, man, I can't tell you how many politicians I've met, the lovely people, they talk a big game. I'm going to go in, I'm going to do this. They're in the system for about 3 seconds before they're totally bought and paid for and sold. They lose their backbone. They lose their spine. The Washington Post does one hit piece on them, and guess what? They totally render them ineffective. I can't tell you how many people within, frankly, the administration that happened to. You see time and time again.
Yeah, but I think that's for somebody like your dad or anybody like him, maybe DeSantis as well. I think that's a good thing that type of environment exists because it lets you know pretty much immediately who the fucking weak cowards are, right? There is some damage that's done when there's turnover in your administration, I guess, and the media, certainly as antagonistic as they are towards conservatives, are going to press that issue as often as possible. But at least at the end of the day, you shed the dead weight and the people that are working with you are good. Now, that is only if the fucking leader is good. You know what I mean? Every leadership starts at the top and goes down. It does not go the other way. And if we do not have a leader in this country right now, not one bit.
Yeah, go back to 2016, right? And I'll give you actually 2 little stories. Go back to 2016. Was anybody in the Republican Party fighting? No, right? I mean, meaning pre my father getting in there. Do you think Mitt Romney would have taken on the fights that my father did? Of course not, right? He's a feckless coward, and he wouldn't have taken on the fights. I mean, I remember with my father with the military, he was telling, a great story one day where, every night, this is like the first week he was in office, every night he was getting, woken up, some, guy at the Pentagon calling up, hey, we have this terrorist, we want to take him out. Finally, like the third night, he goes, guys, why are you calling me? Well, sir, we just want to get your permission. The last administration made us do that. He goes, where did you go to school? The guy said, West Point, or were you a good student? Yes, I was a very good student. Do me a favor. If a bad guy needs to go, take him out. Tell me about it in the morning. I mean, certainly, if you need to call me, call me. But do your job. And I have your back. And, we never had that before. And you didn't have the fighting class in the Republican Party. And now you look at a lot of them. And God, we have a lot of good fighters now, right? You still have some dead weight, but you have a lot of good. Look at Jim Jordan. Look at the job that he does. I mean, the guy is absolutely relentless in terms of fighting. Look at Gates. There's so many people out there that go out every single day and they fight for what they believe in. And it's very different than the rhino class Republicans who, were there, who would never fight. They would cave to everything the Democrats wanted. And I actually think he did instill a little bit of the fighting spirit in our party. And we never had that before. The Democrats used to walk all over us because we never had the fight. And man, the other side, they are slimy and they will do whatever they can do to get power. And you see it again, the weaponization of every single system in this country. And they've been working on that for decades.
Yeah. And, one of the things I think you need to run, though, is social media. I saw your brother, DJ TJ. I don't know if he called himself that or if that nickname was given to him, but I love it. And let him know that DJ TJ is one of my favorite nicknames of all time. He posted one of the very first, it looked like a tweet from Truth Social. Is that supposed to launch soon?
Yeah, more to come on that. We're keeping it a little bit under wraps, but I think you're going to be we need it. We don't have it. I mean, guys, I'm on Twitter. I've got a lot of people. I'm on, Instagram. I'm on Facebook, but they shadow ban the hell out of us. I mean,
same with us, yeah.
I'll also post certain articles, and I mean, you see zero engagement when you have millions and millions and millions of people. And then you see somebody post crap content that has 1/10 the amount of, followers as you have. And all of a sudden you see their engagement go through the roof because their content follows the narrative of whatever they're talking about. I mean, look at the vaccine stuff. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was taken off, the different social platforms. I was banned for 7 days because I posted something that, even that was actually true today, but that questioned the authority at the time. And that's a very, very dangerous thing. That's a very dangerous thing. I mean, when has censorship in the history of the world ever led to anything that's good?
Yeah.
Did censorship lead to anything that was good in China? How about in Nazi Germany? Did censorship lead to anything that was good? How about Venezuela? How about Russia? You question the leader in Russia, and half the journalists have been killed. I mean, when has censorship ever led to anything good?
Well, forget about it just in the sense of running a government. You're a business owner. We're business owners. Censorship inside of a business, it is a meritocracy or it fails. That's how business works, and that's certainly how foreign policy's got to work with regard to strength and war specifically. It's the ultimate meritocracy because if you lose, you die. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so forget about just inside of government or censorship from an authoritarian government. At its very base level, censorship is completely antithetical to good, positive results, right? You're operating with less data and information than you need to make an informed decision like that. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, and will Truth Social be different? Like, I'm assuming just by the way you're talking that censorship will not be an issue on this social platform.
No, of course not. I mean, listen, there's some censorship that you need, right? If somebody starts posting, naked pictures of,
Well, ironically, Twitter lets you,
right?
But Twitter lets you do it. Twitter lets porn stars post all the time.
No, I'm not talking about porn stars. You have some pedophile maniac that starts posting pictures. You need to certainly be able to censor that, right? But no, it is a free speech platform, and it's something that we just don't have in this country. And you have all these platforms that talk about wanting to be free speech, but they're not actually free speech because you have some dork that's in Silicon Valley, that's 25 years old, that's putting their fingers on kind of the scales of justice. I mean, every one of us has one of these phones, right?
Yep.
I mean, go look at Apple News on any given day. I mean, you've got some young kid, again, in Silicon Valley, is picking the stories that he wants to put up. And why is it that it's always Donald Trump, something that's negative? something that's negative about myself or some other member of the GOP. Yet you have Biden, who can't get through a sentence, who is making every single blunder, and yet every single day they prop this guy up. Guys, I'm a pretty straight guy. I'm the hardest working guy. I'm in the office super early, leave super late, have a great family, great kids, believe in discipline, and, live a very healthy lifestyle, no drugs or anything else. I get slandered every single day. Yet, on the opposite side, I guess what you'd call a counterpart, I feel bad saying that's a counterpart, Hunter Biden, he's doing crack, banging hookers, dating, dead dead brothers, ex-wives, doing all sorts of other things, embezzling money from China, taking diamonds from all over the world, doing all sorts of other things. Traveling on Air Force Two to foreign countries, sitting on energy boards in industries that he knows nothing about. And this guy gets pass. I mean, guys, Dan, if I was finger painting right now, I know nothing about painting. I'm not exactly the painting type, right? If I was finger painting and going out right across the street and selling my paintings for $500,000 while my father was in office, it would be called capital punishment. Yet this joker gets away with it every single day. I mean, and they give him the pass. Yeah. Could you imagine?
No.
Well, if you're smart, you'll make it an NFT. First of all, I just want to make that clear. That's where Hunter fucked up. Also, let me ask you this. I mean, we still have at least 2 years of this Biden character left. Are you going to register for your free Biden crack pipe? Yes or no?
Yeah. Are you going to get one? Are you going to get a smoking kit? I mean,
are they going to engrave the side at all? Is there just a fucking crack pipe? Because I need a collector's item.
And is it for your son?
That's a really bad idea. That's a bad idea. Like, all the great causes that we could spend money on. How about like solving cancer? How about so many great things.
But crack though, good old fashioned crack.
I mean, guys, it's so sad, And then you look at the border. My father had the drug trade kind of almost shut down. It just was so hard to come across the border. Listen, drugs will always find their way across, but I mean, the dent that he put in it. Drug prices were the highest of all time under my father. Now, you see these interviews where they're going out to drug addicts on the street. Oh, yeah, it's super easy. It's never been easier to get drugs. It's never been cheaper to get drugs. Like the problems that perpetuates, what that does to youth in society, what that does to the family structures, the lives that destroys, not just with the actual addict itself. And that's obviously terrible, but the family members, the moms, the dads, the brothers, the sisters, the wives, the husbands. I mean, why? Because we can't, we want to let a bunch of people. We don't want to police our borders. We don't want to take this stuff seriously.
Fentanyl is the number one cause. Fentanyl overdose is the number one cause of death in the last 2 years for people 18 to 45.
Yep.
The number one cause for people 18 to 45 in America, 80,000 people the last 2 years have died from fentanyl overdoses.
And it's all coming in from Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's from China, guys. They don't care if they poison our society. A lot of it's coming from China.
Oh yeah, a lot of it's China. Yeah, I mean, but a lot of our legal pharmaceuticals come from China as well. I don't think we talk enough about that. That's weird as fuck.
Yeah,
that we look at what relying on China for our computer chips has done to the auto industry, to the gaming computer industry, and all that shit. Just to tech in general in this country and how much influence they have, and just the ability to cut that pipeline off. Well, they also control a great deal of our pharmaceuticals. I don't know if people are aware of that shit. That's not good.
No, it's not good.
It's all about data. That's why they buy a lot of these companies, because they want the data, right? I mean, they're a data machine. Everybody thinks the fallacy behind 5G is that everybody thinks that 5G is just so they can control, what you and I want to, surf on our iPhones when we're bored at an airport. That's not why you want to control 5G, right? It's so you can spy on countries all around the world, so you can build the infrastructure for countries around the world, and then they can't pay you back for that infrastructure. So then you take their main ports, you do all sorts of other things. There's a huge fallacy of why China wants 5G, and it goes far beyond having the average Joe surfing the internet and buying something on, Google. It is. And guys, we've got to be awfully careful of that. And again, you have the fentanyl problems. You have, you have the theft of intellectual property. They're not fighting. We fight wars by buying tanks and buying bullets and buying awesome planes and everything else. They fight wars by, manipulating industry, bankrupting U.S. industry. They want to control communications, right? You were just alluding to it a second ago, Dan. And why do you want to control communications? Well, if you control communications, you control war fighting, you control commerce, you control business, you control elections, you can spy on people, you can steal intellectual property. Seems like a pretty good reason to want to own all those chips. I mean, if we ever went to war, who's making the chips that go in our F-35s and F-22s and our tanks? And, our satellites and everybody else. We're certainly not making them over here. Who's making the batteries? Where are the raw materials coming from? It's a damn scary problem. And the fact that their eye is off of this ball as we screw around with transgender bathrooms and we screw around with, who can swim in the NCAA for the University of Pennsylvania, right? China is laughing at us right now. They've stolen our factories already, something that pissed my father off and one of the reasons he ran. And today they're selling low-priced goods back to the very people that they put out of business. It's wrong.
I can tell.
That might answer your question. That might answer your question whether or not I would want him to do it again.
I was just going to say, I can see your frustration visibly in front of us, where you seem like you want to rip the computer out of the wall at this point. He has to run, right? He's got to run.
The problem is we put our blood, sweat, and tears into something that was noble and right. And I think we did it, not that we were naive. We're not naive people at all. We live in a, kind of big boy and girl land, and, we understand the real world, and we understand that, it's not always perfect, right? But, man, did we never thought we'd face the tidal wave that we faced doing it. But now that we understand the game for what it is, I think he can actually be, frankly, even more effective than he was, first term, because you get it. You get who these people are, and, we're all watching this country go down the tubes. Everything, every aspect of our country. What? You watch, oil goes up. This is my prediction that I leave the show with. Oil goes up another 10, 15%. Mm-hmm. Inflation will be over 10% in this country. And it's not coming back down because these people are idiots, right? And we have that problem. We have the southern border problem. And we have, why are we still ranked 30th in the world in terms of education? Maybe the most important thing to a society, educating our youth. Why? How is that happening in the United States of America? And, how are we getting embarrassed? How did we leave Afghanistan the way we did? And how did the Taliban get $86 billion worth of sniper rifles and helicopters and body armor and night vision? I mean, these guys were riding around on mopeds 2 years ago. My father didn't lose a single person in Afghanistan in the last 18 months of his presidency. And now you have, because they understood, they appreciated strength.
Yeah, I got to tell you.
Strong guy, and now look at the freaking disaster that we have over there, and it's all because of weakness.
It's been really rough on myself and, to a greater degree, a lot of my buddies who did extensive time in Afghanistan to get those phone calls from their Afghan friends and allies asking, hey, why are you guys abandoning us? Right? I mean, that's you talk about doing war is not an easy thing to do. It's not easy. It takes a lot out of you, every fucking single part of you. And when you're robbed by the people who run the country of your honor like that, it has devastating effects to people, like devastating effects. And I don't know if the veteran class in this country is going to heal from that, frankly.
Dan, especially because you won, right? We haven't lost, as a country, we haven't lost a war since, as a country, we haven't lost a battle since World War II. Some can argue Korea, but World War II. We haven't lost a battle. It means that the American soldiers are doing everything right. Yet the politicians are doing everything wrong. I mean, we couldn't even get our dogs out of Afghanistan. So the dogs that saved so many lives, we couldn't even take them home. I mean, my wife was a big part of, trying to solve that problem. She's, a huge animal person, and, she worked tirelessly on this. You couldn't even bring the dogs home. We couldn't take our sniper rifles and night vision and stuff somewhere else. We had to arm the Taliban, who was shooting AKs from the 1960s and 70s with modern U.S. rifles. Have we lost our damn minds? I mean, the answer is yes, right?
Yeah,
the simple
yeah.
But it's just, who would let that happen? I mean, my 4-year-old son, who knows nothing about politics, would tell you that was a bad idea. It's, how do we let this happen? And again, it's, when you have Milley up on Capitol Hill testifying about, how he would like sensitivity training and everything to go on, and how, let's rename, Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune, some of the greatest bases on earth. Let's rename Camp Lejeune. Unbelievable. Probably the greatest piece of real estate in the country. Let's rename Camp Lejeune because we think it's going to offend somebody. Yet you can't get our sniper rifles out of the hands of, people who want to, run 767s into buildings in New York? Have we not lost our? I mean, how quickly do we forget? And I think that's why I'm pissed off, guys. I'm ranting and
it's
fine.
It's the attitude that comes from people that have never had to work or fight for anything in their lives. The aristocratic class, the political class in America. They think that it's the same thing with gun control. They don't want you to have a gun to defend yourself while they have a team of armed men around them at all times. And they don't think that there's any existential threat because they've never experienced a real existential threat in their lives because they're not real people, right? They're just fucking puppets that have been fluffed up by positive media coverage and sycophants all around them for fucking decades, right? And
Isn't it interesting that the gun owners never caused any problems? I mean, I'm the biggest gun owner in the world, right? I'm a big 2A guy. I've done a lot of competitive shooting my whole life. I love that stuff, right? But isn't it really amazing that, like, you know, myself, my friend, we're the least offensive people in the entire world. In fact, we're the people that I think love this country the most. The gun owners cause no problems. There are no problems at the NRA show. There's no problems at SHOT Show, right? Zero. Great people.
Yeah, that'd be a bad place to start some shit.
Yeah. Look where all these other problems come out of. And by the way, you know, to my comment about censorship before, when has disarming a country ever worked out well? You know, they also did that in Nazi Germany. That didn't work out well. They also did that in China. Mm-hmm. Hasn't worked out too well. I mean, when has that ever worked out well in any society? You know, censorship, disarming a country, it doesn't work out well. Government, a large government, it just doesn't work out well.
No, never does, and it never will. I know you've got to bounce. You're a busy guy, and you do a ton of interviews. Now's the point in the show we get to the Drinkin' Bro of the Week, which is someone who has inspired you or helped you become the person you are today. Who would you like to give the Drinkin' Bro of the Week to?
Oh, wow. Guys, there's so many. My brother is one of them. He's a phenomenal guy. Big into the outdoors together, kind of grew up shooting and, you know, climbing around in the woods and having a great time. My father, one of my best friends in the entire world. He's got something of steel. I won't say the word, but he's got more backbone than any person I've ever met. And you want to talk about a warrior? He's a warrior.
Balls.
You know, so even though he's not a drinker.
Well, unless you count Diet Coke, right?
He reminds me of a lot of my buddies who do drink because he's got a lot of energy and a lot of fight, and he's an incredible guy. So I give it to those two. So.
Awesome. And I'll give you a shout out. Back in 2016, you invited us, your family did, out to a rally in Wilmington, North Carolina, where I still own a house to this day. We got to sit with you and your wife and your wife's parents. You guys couldn't have been nicer to me and my entire family, and I'm extremely grateful. And back to what you were saying about not being politicians, you guys were just normal people who actually got fed up with what was going on in the country and decided to do something about it. And that's what I find so fascinating about your family, and that's why I voted for your father in particular.
Thank you. Hey, listen, there are a lot of clowns on the right. I think there are a lot more clowns on the left, and we need good, honest people that have backbone, and we've got to kind of restore the beliefs of this country and restore kind of who we are, and, you know, stop the bullshit.
Yeah.
And the faster we can do that, the better we're going to be as a nation.
Yeah. Everybody's got to be playing the same game, right?
Yeah.
Like Republicans, Democrats, conservative, liberals, they may have their individual opinions about how we reach the apex of prosperity and liberty. But if that's not the goal, then you got to get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah.
If we're playing tug of war and you're over there playing chess, you're not on my team, buddy. You're my enemy if that is the case in every case. So, yeah, we appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you, Eric.
We'll see you soon.
All right,
All right, have a great day. Eric Trump, what a cool guy. What an interesting dude. I don't think I've ever seen someone so honest and frustrated during an interview before.
Yeah.
Like, usually when people come on like that who are super powerful or their family is powerful, they're not that honest. He seemed genuinely frustrated by everything that was going on in the world.
Well, that Don Jr. is the same way, right? When people before found out that Eric was coming on the show, a lot of were like, are you going to ask him about this or this, about his dad saying this? I'm like, I've got a list of questions about you for your dad as well. Are you ready? Shut the fuck up, man. Like, I want to have a conversation with this guy who's involved in stuff that has interesting stories to tell and an interesting perspective. Listening to somebody talk isn't necessarily a tacit endorsement of what they're saying. I think we're learning that with this whole Rogan fiasco. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, somebody said this on your show, and you didn't correct them. Like, I don't even know what the fuck they were talking about.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know what I mean? But he seems like a genuinely good dude, and the place he's coming from is why I think his dad was so successful at doing the behind the scenes stuff that is required as president, right? Projecting strength, making good deals that benefit our country before other countries and things like that. You could tell that it's ones and zeros for him especially. Don Jr. is a little bit more on the meme war side, which is really fucking funny.
Yeah.
But Eric is more like, hey, trade deficit with China, good. Let's do this. All right, cool. Let's sign some Middle East peace deals. Cool. All right, let's keep gas low. Sweet. Let's do that. And not print a fuckload of money and cause unnecessary inflation. I can listen to that guy talk. That shit makes fucking sense to me. I don't give a fuck if he said all that and he's still on the far left about some issues or on the far right about certain issues that I don't really care for. I could still listen to that because that's the stuff that makes the country institutionally strong. And then we can have these little debates.
Yeah.
Right? That's how this whole thing's fucking supposed to work. If you put doors on your house before you put a roof on it, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and again, we're not a gotcha show. We never have been, and we're open to any viewpoint as long as it is from an interesting and smart place. If shit gets out of hand, obviously we'll get into some Scaramucci shit, you know? Wait. But other than that, again, we're not a gotcha show. And even if like the Obamas wanted to come on the show, congratulations, we would have you on the show. Just be an interesting, nice person and explain your viewpoints. I'm not going to throw you in the fire because of it. Yeah. So, we've gotten a lot of messages about, what we're going to ask and why. And it's like, during these things, and I know Rogan has mentioned this as well, like they're not scripted, which is what makes this show so great.
And we obviously know Eric, he obviously knows us, but that doesn't necessarily mean like everything that you hear on this show isn't something that all of us agree on. Mm-hmm. Like even between you and me, it's not always something that we agree on. If you can't entertain somebody else's idea without throwing a fucking hissy fit about it, then you're a little bitch, man. That's not something that we should make or lift up in our society. Like, oh man, he got offended and he left right away. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Right. That's some pussy bullshit.
And plus, if you are going after somebody interview after interview after interview, nobody's going to want to come on the fucking show.
No. I mean, look, if I need to get after somebody like, I don't know, Spike Cohen or Anthony Scaramucci or anything like that, glad to do it, obviously. Don't care about people's feelings at all.
Right. And the Spike Cohen interview, I remember that was in a respectful way. And afterwards, Spike was like a homie.
No, he liked it, yeah.
Yeah, dude.
We talked for like 15 minutes after the show. People thought like I was trying to trash him for a second there, or he and I were in some kind of...
Not at all,
I guess we are in a bit of a heated debate. But like after the show, I was like, dude, that was pretty fun. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. He had a blast and hit us up online and everything else.
But he's a libertarian. They don't get offended by shit very easily.
No.
They just really want to be left alone. They get offended by government overreach, I guess, and spending. But that's not really being offended. That's just being smart.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the questions, though, I wish we would have more time. I forgot to ask him was how this affects his family and kids and stuff like that.
I'm sure they keep the younger ones insulated from everything. But, like, Barron's on social media by now. He's 15, right? He sees all this shit all the time, I'm sure. That's got to suck.
Well, he sees everything.
And I'm sure it sucked
because he's 6'7".
Yeah. I'm sure it sucked for Obama's kid.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure. And it definitely sucked for, probably to a lesser degree, for Bush's kids. But you remember media hit pieces about them like, oh, these college girls are drunk. Like, college girls drunk? Oh, no. Next, you're going to tell me Snoop Dogg smoked weed before the halftime show. Shut the fuck up. People trying to make a big deal about it when Obama's daughter was drinking in college. She's only 19.
Oh, they had a like, picture of her.
Up,
exactly.
Man.
And she was smoking weed, I think, at a concert or a festival.
You know how much weed I had smoked by the time I was 19?
No shit.
Get the fuck out of here.
It's like, dude, that's not a story.
But that betrays just how antagonistic it's all become, and that's why I was talking about that impeachment thing. It's not about, like, when impeachment happens, it's never based on how bad a president's behavior has been. Mm-hmm. It's based on the tumult in the political climate at the time. Right. Andrew Johnson was during Reconstruction. Clinton was after a bunch of wars, right? Like Somalia, the Serbia shit was completely fucked. And it was after 40 years of Democrats controlling Congress, and all of a sudden in 94, Newt Gingrich got it back, right? So they were on the war path, him and that fat fuck Frank Luntz, although he's lost some weight recently. And then obviously with Trump, it was the same way. It was never about what they did. Mm-hmm. It was about us not liking them. And I don't think that's a good enough reason to completely fucking dismantle a government.
Me neither.
That
Me neither.
It seems fucking stupid.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it sets a bad precedent. I know I've said this on other shows in the past, but it sets a bad precedent where you're doing it to every single president just to do it.
Yeah, that's banana republic bullshit.
It is.
Every former leader's in jail. What the fuck, man?
And I'm glad you brought up that comment about Ted Cruz earlier because it's like, that can't be your fucking reason, Ted. It's got to be for
Ted,
something.
Though. Remember when Obama first got elected? Mitch McConnell's first statement after Obama got elected in November of 2008 was, our goal in the Senate is to make sure Obama's a one-term president. That's your goal? Not to make the fucking country better.
Right.
Are you fucking kidding me? Because if you go out of your way to make the country better, people will notice that, and then they will vote for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's how that's supposed to work. You fucking cunt.
And he also brought up something about hard work, which I like personally, because I know, we've had, I'm trying to say who it is without saying who it is. We've had friends that have worked in the White House who kind of told us Trump's schedule.
Yeah.
And then I only slept like 4 or 5 hours a night.
Brutal, yeah.
And he always kept working and everything else. And,
Well, that was the typical presidential schedule until this one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Obama did the same thing. Look at his hair grayness from start to finish.
Oh, yeah.
It's not great. Look at George Bush's hair. Like they both sucked as president, but man, it's a hard job still.
It's a hard job, dude.
Yeah, but this guy, I just don't get it. I don't understand why he's got a fake set at his Delaware home. I don't understand.
I don't understand
how much money is that costing the taxpayers to have full-time security off location and full-time security at the White House? Not like going on trips and stuff, but full-time security.
Well, I mean, I saw, 25% of his presidency's been spent in Delaware so far. And that
he's working from home, right?
Yeah, he's working from home.
Using
so
Zoom.
I guess he's zooming in, and everything's fine. But the other thing that's interesting is they're starting to lift all these mask mandates.
Yeah, DC lifted theirs today for everybody except for schools. Same thing with
Shut the fuck up.
Same thing with California. I think yesterday.
Yeah, California the 15th. Yeah, so yesterday. Except for schools. Was it really?
The one group of people that have nothing to fear, right?
Yeah.
Are still wearing masks because we can make them and they can't do shit about it. Oof. It's like that last little flex.
Yeah.
Like, just remember, these kids are an example. It's like the fucking Hunger Games. Like these kids fighting every year, that's an example of what can happen to you if you don't do what we fucking tell you. You know what? Fuck you.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I walked into my kid's school this morning, and the teachers are still wearing masks. Luckily, the kids aren't.
Yeah.
But if you're the teacher, like she was trying to have a conversation with me, I was like, "You can pull the mask down. I don't care." Why they're making them still do it? And again, after watching the Super Bowl over the weekend, what the fuck, bro? Like, not one single person was wearing a mask in there. But yeah, let's continue to have everybody else wear.
You know what the bad thing about this is? Usually in a normal year, somewhere between like 25 and 60,000 people die of the flu. And if we had normalized having flu-like symptoms and putting the mask on yourself, because that's what it does, it protects other people from you, like Asians have been doing for the last 90 years. If we had normalized that instead of making it into a political issue, we probably could have actually saved a bunch of people, old people especially, lives from getting the flu.
Yeah.
But now that'll never happen because even the people that were on board with the mask at some point are so fucking pissed off. Now, like 66% of the country is pissed off about this shit.
Yeah.
Which is funny because 66% of the country in the latest NBC poll also wants the federal government to further investigate Hillary Clinton. I'm sorry, 66% of Democrats. Excuse me.
Yeah.
100% of Republicans, I'm sure. 66% of Democrats said in a recent poll that they want to investigate Hillary Clinton.
What's the probability that would actually happen, though?
It'll happen in 2025.
You think so?
Yeah. She may be dead by then, right? She's old. I don't mean like anybody's going to whack her or anything, but she's pretty old. I mean, she's rich, so who knows?
I was going to say, because I think she'll be 70s. Bob, how old is Hillary
70.
Clinton? Is she
72, I think? I think she's 72. 74.
What do you got, Bob?
74.
She's got the same birthday
74.
as my brother. That's weak.
Really?
Yeah, but she'll be
Joshua Holiday?
Yeah, Holloway. But you don't even know my last name. She'll be.
I don't know his.
It's October 26th. It's her birthday, so 2022. She will be 76 and some change, 76 and a half or so by the time the next president is inaugurated.
She'll still be alive.
Maybe.
She'll still be alive. I think she's going to run. And sorry, Josh, I do love you, buddy. I do. But I think she'll end up running. I don't know who else.
You didn't mispronounce his first name. You mispronounced our collective family last name.
It's fine. It's fine. Your last name is spelled weird anyways. There's an A where it shouldn't be.
Yeah, true.
But it wouldn't surprise me if she ran. I know we've said this.
She is so wildly unpopular. I can't imagine.
No, but who else?
I mean,
who else is it?
It'd be really funny.
You know what else is funny, dude? Was AOC was here on her seltzer launch day.
Yeah. She came for the seltzer launch, and we told her no.
I would have let her in, let her have a blue Raz for some hard AF. You texted me that she was only 3 minutes down the street.
Yeah, it was just a couple blocks away from where we were.
I wonder if she went out and partied for the Super Bowl.
Probably, right? Probably a private party, though, so nobody would take pictures of her doing it.
Probably. Well, Austin, you don't have to wear shit anyway, so unless you're in school, like you were saying before. Yeah. But that was a fun show. I really enjoyed it, and I'd love to have him back on. I'd love to have DJ TJ on, and then maybe the big guy one day.
Yeah, we were supposed to have him on not too long ago, but
I was in the hospital.
You were in the hospital, and then he had to push like 2 weeks ago because he had something going on with scheduling with these people.
Yeah,
it's a fucking nightmare.
Oh, with everybody.
Yeah,
but you get it. You're busy, and it's not their fault. Again, they're getting sued every fucking day. So you've got to report to lawyers and CPAs and all that stuff every single day of like, hey, dude, can you just pull these text messages and emails? Somebody's got to do this for me. They're asking for it, and that's the way it works. But they're trying to do the same thing with Alec Baldwin right now.
Yeah.
He finally gave up his phone, by the way.
Yeah. Imagine that.
That
that reminds me of that Chappelle Show skit where they reverse the roles, where the white corporate guy gets a grenade thrown into his bedroom, and then the crack dealer is like negotiating when he's going to show up to turn himself in or whatever.
Yeah.
And I can never traffic rocks to the community.
The fifth. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Like Alec Baldwin just decided to say no to an investigation for 6 months or whatever.
Nuts, dude. It's absolutely nuts.
That's not really how that's supposed to work, but whatever.
No. And then the Bob Saget thing today.
Yeah, Bob Saget definitely got murdered. I mean, that sucks. And I don't know why his family is. I don't know if they're going to conduct their own investigation, try to figure out what's happened before, or if they already know and they're embarrassed by it or what. But I mean, look, I respect their privacy. I just hope if somebody did kill this goddamn national treasure, they pay for it.
I know.
That's all I care about.
I think there's a link. I think whoever punched Rick Moranis finished the job on Bob Saget.
Ooh.
And they're just going around punching.
The nicest people on
Yeah.
earth? Yeah. Jesus Christ, man.
If you haven't heard about the Bob Saget thing, it turns out the head trauma was said to have been caused by a baseball bat or a fall of 20 to 30 feet in the air, and they can't figure out how that would have happened inside a hotel room.
It didn't happen inside a hotel room. Now, if you had gotten cracked in the back of the head, even in the room, I feel like there would be evidence of that somewhere, right?
That's what I think, too. And the police
Like
have said...
blood splatter. There's a lot of capillaries outside of the skull right here. When you get hit in the head, it bleeds a lot. That's why when you see boxers bleeding, it's usually not from the nose first. It's little cuts up here, and it's just gushing down their face. Mm-hmm. If he got hit in the head with something, there would be blood everywhere, right? If it happened in the room.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre. I mean, look, I'm curious about it, but really, all I really care about is that whoever took this man away from us fucking pays the price for it. I hope that person gets murdered again and again until they're dead.
So TMZ, and take it for what it's worth, it's TMZ. They're saying that according to the surveillance footage, there was no one in and out of the room. So who knows? The whole thing is super bizarre. But I think in a weird, sick way, Bob Saget would have loved it. That all this is going on. That it's
I mean, not for his family, right?
No, not his family, but just for the comedy element of it, where it was like, dude, can you believe this? Everybody thinks I was murdered.
Go out with a question mark. Kyle Kinane tells this joke. I don't know if you know him. He's a really funny comedian. He tells this joke about, like, if I ever get suicidal, I'm going to put a cup of water on the sidewalk and then jump off a building and try to land in it. So people are like, Did he really think he could do that? Or what? Did he kill himself, or did he think he could swan dive into a fucking glass of water? I mean, look, it's funny.
It is funny. But yeah, we'll find out what happens with Saget. Thanks for tuning in today, kids. For D'Anthony Holloway, I'm Ross Patterson. This is the Drinkin' Bros podcast. Good night, everyone.